And how did it feel to score that goal?
Good technique displayed. Oh my God!
It felt good. It felt like I was on top of the world.
So it was October 8th, and your Champions League season started against strong favourites Man City. What was on your mind going into that game?
To be honest, it felt like another cup final for us, because for us it was a chance and opportunity to bounce back from last season's final loss against Real Madrid. So there was a lot of pressure on us as a team. But for me, it was especially a bit more uncomfortable. And I was very nervous because I knew that going out on that field was going to face a lot of bad, negative energy from the fans, regardless of how we were going to play. It was an interesting game too because it made me change my mind about the rest of the season. Because at first I wanted to repay Bayern by chasing that Champions League trophy again and actually winning it this time. But after the Manchester City game and after the months leading into the game and how I was treated in the media and by the fans, I just wanted to leave. I wanted to leave and never come back. I really just didn't care anymore, and I just wanted to be at the 2026 World Cup and definitely on another team.
And then there was Benfica, a 3-1 win where you scored 2 goals and became man of the match. What do you have to say about that game?
Well, it was the first time in a long time that I finally felt free when I was on the ball at Bayern. The fans still didn't warm up to me, but at that moment, by then, I didn't really care anymore. I was no longer afraid of making mistakes, and I remember, and I think you remember it too, heading into this, the leading weeks I was getting a lot of criticism, insults for not shooting. They always said I was afraid of shooting. But since the City game, and especially in this Benfica game, it finally happened where I was just not afraid anymore. I wasn't playing scared. I was no longer afraid of, well, I wasn't afraid of shooting.
Confidence levels up. Koke with it. And goes for goal! Oh, from miles out, he's done it! How about that for a pure strike?
And at the time, no one except my agent and my family knew that I was planning on leaving Bayern for free at the end of the season. Everyone still thought I was going to give my all, my loyalty, my heart to Bayern, but to be honest, I was only doing that on the pitch, on the grass. Because why give 100% when you receive the opposite back from the people who are meant to be on your side?
But why hide it from your teammates as well?
Because they cared. Especially Thomas and Kane and Leroy when he was still there and Jamal. They cared. They cared for me, and I knew that my secret would hurt them and bring down the rest of the team and hurt our season. I saw what happened with Liverpool and Klopp, then Dortmund and Royce the season before, when you tried to bid a farewell and then make everyone say, let's win something for you on your last season. I knew that announcing a departure would just add some unnecessary pressure. And I knew this because of last season, but also because looking at how I was being treated in training and by the coaching and by the staff, I was treated like an icon in a way. So I knew that if I announced my leave, my farewell, it would cause us problems for the rest of the season. That's why I kept it from them.
In December, you finished 4th in the Ballon d'Or race, and Bayern was on top of the Bundesliga, but were in danger of crashing out in Europe heading into the last game of the group stage. The fans put a lot of pressure on you again.
They did, and this time it wasn't the normal kind of pressure that they usually gave me. It wasn't the kind where they had hoped that I would fail. This time, they were actually hoping that I would do good enough to bring their club into the next round. For once in a very, very long time, I felt that the fans actually wanted me to succeed. And it was funny. It was funny to me because heading into December, Thomas listened to them and benched me for Jamal. Not because I was playing bad or anything, but because he wanted to prove a point. And it worked. We still won games, but the goals were going in a lot more scrappy, a lot more late goals were needed to win games, and Kane was clearly struggling to create and score all on his own at his age. And no disrespect to Jamal, but he clearly didn't have the same finishing ability that I did. And even he knew it. He was also in on the bit of the joke of trying to prove Thomas's joke as well. Point. So, by Shakhtar, the fans clearly wanted me back. But Thomas still decided to keep me on the bench and only subbed me on at the 60th minute. And thankfully for them, by then we were already 2-0 up, but those two goals weren't the usual comfortable, systematic goals that we used to score when I was starting the months before.
And it was the first time in weeks that we saw you playing football again.
And it was scary for the fans, but not for me. If anything, I liked it because I knew that when I stepped up to their challenge, it would be sweet and hard for them to swallow when I proved Thomas's point further that, hey, you need me just as much as I need you.
Switching gears to the second half of the season, you drew PSG in the round of 16, a punishment for finishing second in your group, and by now many people were saying that the cracks in Bayern's system were beginning to show.
But we still knew that we had what it took to go through, and for that reason we wanted to go through. And once again, the pressure was on me and Kane. Even before the game, I remember it pretty clearly. Before the game, Kane let me know that he was realizing that his time as Bayern star man was almost up. He said that the best he could do was 6 months, and that meant that it would be up to me or Musiala to fill his shoes. But I think by now, we all knew that I knew that it wasn't going to be me. Either way, we had 2 big games against PSG to focus on, and thankfully, by the time we hit that second leg, all we needed to do was to hold on to the 2-0 lead we got at home.
Then you move on from one powerhouse to the next. Liverpool and worse, you would have to visit Anfield for the first leg. Everyone I've interviewed treats it like a nightmare.
It was a nightmare, especially when you look at the fact that we ended up losing that game anyways. It was a real nightmare. The atmosphere and their fans were just chilling. It's pretty, I don't know, it's something to hear "You'll Never Walk Alone" not being sung for you, but being sung against you. And as a child, and even in my earlier years as a footballer, I heard a lot of stories about Anfield and how, I don't know yet in English, but in Dutch we say intimiderend. Yeah, how intimiderend Anfield was. And to make it worse, the weather was cold too.
But then you scored that goal, an iconic Champions League goal, probably up there with Ronaldo's bicycle kick against Juventus.
Yeah, it was special to me. Very special. It was a symbol too. A symbol of bouncing back from that unfortunate day back in 2025 in the Champions League final. To go from not shooting when I should have in the biggest game of my career to now just scoring, what I guess I could argue is one of the best Champions League goals of all time. It also proved to a lot of people, both the lovers and the haters, that I was someone with super talent, potential, and abilities. I only wish that we didn't lose the game in the second leg, because part of me still wanted to win the Champions League for my teammates and my coach and everyone else who supported me at Bayern. And to go off track a bit, if you will forgive me, I would also like to add again that I enjoyed my time at Bayern, and if I could go back and change anything, I wouldn't. The only thing I really regretted was the way I had to go. the fans pushed me out a bit, and I also want to say, for the record, I'm not mad at them. I was once a fan too, and I used to shout at Van Persie whenever he did something I didn't like through the TV in my living room when I was still a boy. The fans have passion, and I can't say too much bad about that. But yeah, we can get back to that goal now.
And how did it feel to score that goal?
Good technique displayed. Oh my goodness, what a strike! From so far out, absolutely.
It felt good. It felt like I was on top of the world.